Welcome back to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest in what will be the very, very last installment of the NRL Punters Weekly Digest for season 2021. Because on Sunday, we've got a grand final. That's right, we made it to the GF. So this is the last time I'm going to be shacking up, bunkering down in my basement, which my missus says will one day possibly, hopefully not likely, but possibly become my home when she decides to take another lover. But for now, it's my little studio, and I'm pumped to be bringing you this last video for the season, and also a little bit sad because I've had a lot of fun in this basement all by myself making these videos for you. As per usual, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, you want to stay in the loop of all my future content. I'm not sure where the next content will be given it's the end of the season, but there will be more coming your way. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. And then I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this video. I'd also appreciate a like. So if you can't give me a like and you can't give me a dislike, if you're gonna choose between a like and dislike, please give me the like. But if you're not going to do that, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of the channel, of the video, etc. Let's get straight into it. Last week, we had the prelims for 2021 and two great games of football, two outstanding games of football. One was more lopsided than the other in its result. The other one was probably more of a traditional kind of finals, gritty, getting in the grind contest. In terms of my tips for last week, I was all over the Bunnies. I knew they were going to do it, and I knew they were going to do it well, and I was right. However, the tip that I got wrong, and another, I was going to say local YouTuber, but he's from the UK, NRL History, he caught me out on my tip whereby I said that the Storm were going to win. They were going to win easily. In fact, I said they were going to flog the Panthers. It was going to be one-way traffic. The Panthers were done for the season. NRL History said, I think you're neglecting the fact that historically the Storm are massive chokers. For the amount of competitions that they've won in their short history, and technically speaking, if you take the ones that were taken away from them, they're head and shoulders the best team of the modern era. They have choked. They have choked possibly more times than they've won, depending on how you want to look at it. And he was right. He was right. And I was wrong to tip the Storm, and I was wrong to underestimate the Panthers. The Panthers came through with a really, really good performance. And it was a performance that they needed to get to the GF. So I was 50-50 in my tips last week. I did tip some anytime try scorers though. If you were following my tips, I had Alex Johnston, I had Tommy Turbo, and I had Ryan Papenhuyzen. So that's 3 from 6. That wasn't too bad. Not too bad there at all. Let's get into the decider. My thoughts on this particular contest. So let's start by decompressing the Panthers' performance from last week. They were able to edge out the Storm 10-6. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the Storm could have easily won this contest. They really could. When you look at the stats between the two sides, there really wasn't much. The most telling stat, which is quite often the most telling stat in most NRL games, you can see where a team wins or loses the contest, is in the completion rates. Now, Melbourne, who traditionally are so clean with their ball possession, they're out many errors in their game. They were atrocious. I can't even remember the last time I saw the Storm drop that much ball. It's like they didn't want to win the game. And again, going back to the stats between the two sides, there really wasn't much that separated them other than the completion rate. I honestly believe that Melbourne played themselves out of that game. If they'd held on to the ball and capitalised on their opportunities, I think they actually would have won that game. They would have beaten the Panthers. They would have gone straight through to the GF. Now, that's not to take away anything from Penrith. But when you're comparing an 80% completion rate to 69%, I believe it was, then and there's only a 4-point margin there, goes to show that the ball goes through the Storm's hands cleanly a few more times in a few more sets. We know that the Storm are very good on executing and their attacking plays. I think that they could have scored at least one try there, and at the worst, possibly taking that through to Golden Point. it wasn't to be. And again, I don't want to take anything away from the Penrith Panthers. Well done to them. To be able to make successive grand finals is a huge accomplishment. It's a huge testament to a great club. A great club that has nurtured their juniors and basically seen the fruits of their toil, if you want to put it that way. Traditionally, Penrith have always had a strong junior nursery, and now they're bearing the fruit. I think I saw an article the other day whereby, I don't know what the numbers are of how many of their junior players are actually playing in this grand final. They come through their system, but it's an overwhelming amount. And in the modern game, where it's almost like the American system, I mean, I guess we don't really have a trade system as such, although we have seen trades in the past. We've seen players loaned, etc. But we're becoming a little bit like the US system of sports, where it's not about what club brought you through. I know maybe it's a little bit different over there. You've got these huge franchises and you come through, a high school or a college system and you go straight there. You don't come through the junior ranks like you would in Australian sports, whether it's, the NRL, the AFL, the NBL. But we're seeing that loyalty is something that's kind of, I'm not going to say absolutely has gone through out the door for the NRL, but it's not as revered as it used to be. Just because you come through a system doesn't mean as a young player that you're going to feel necessarily compelled to go there. A lot of teams are entirely made up of teams, players from other teams. The Sydney Roosters are a great example of that kind of mold. The Sydney Roosters know they don't necessarily have to nurture their own juniors because they've got the weighting in the competition that they can just poach players. You get as a 16, 17-year-old, you get approached by the Sydney Roosters, the glitz and glam of Sydney town. It's really hard to refuse that, But full credit to the Penrith Panthers, who have been able to nurture their own. With respect to this particular contest against the Rabbitohs, I feel like it's going to be a very interesting contest. I have my ideas, and I'm going to tell you who I'm backing in this one here. But I just want to focus on the historical perspective here. There are historical, numbers that come out for both sides here. For Penrith, what stands out for me is they're only almost mirroring their 1990 and 1991 seasons. Now, in 1990, they went down to the Canberra Raiders in the grand final. They played each other the next year in the 1991 season, and the Panthers were able to overcome the Raiders to win that premiership there. It's feeling like maybe it could be going a little bit down this track if you like numbers. I'm not sure. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. With respect to the Bunnies' performance last week against the Seagulls, they beat the Seagulls 36-16. I mean, barring that last 10-minute period where the Bunnies conceded 2 tries, they were all over the Seagulls. They did what you've got to do against the Seagulls. You nullify the back 3. Now, Turbo and Garrick were the only 3 try scorers for the Seagulls, so you could say, well, I mean, they didn't completely nullify them. They scored all their tries, but really they did. They did, because they took Turbo out of the contest. They also nullified the playmakers. DCE and Foreign weren't nearly as effective from the halves. Lachlan Croker, who, I mean, you wouldn't put Lachlan Croker in your top 5 hookers in the NRL, but certainly has a bit of craftiness from dummy half and very strong defensively. They were all pretty ineffective in that game, and Souths were just able to run right. I mean, it was Cody Walker's game, really. He had the ball on a string. They had 3 try scorers that scored doubles. You had Cody Walker, Alex Johnson, Jackson Paulo, just really solidifying how good Souths have been offensively in this last two months of the competition. Head and shoulders the best attacking team in the competition versus, in this grand final, the best defensive team in Penrith. Penrith, who have only conceded, what was the number here? 290 odd, 286 points, which is amazing. Now, if you like the numbers historically for Souths, it makes for some very interesting reading too. And big shout out to NRL History for bringing these stats up in his argument for who's going to win the grand final. So the Bunnies won the grand final in 51 and 71, if you like the ones. And then in 2001, they were allowed to re-enter the competition. Obviously, they didn't re-enter the competition until the following year. But all very, very poignant years for the South Sydney Rabbitohs club, all ending with ones. And then if you throw the Bennett factor in there, which again is a historical numbers reference, no coach has coached 3 different sides to grand final victories. If Wayne Bennett can win on Sunday, he will have won premierships with the Broncos, the Dragons, and the Rabbitohs. And I think that all but seals his legacy as the greatest rugby league coach, at least in this country, overtaking the likes of, Jack Gibson. Craig Bellamy, I guess, is still, 10 years younger than him, so he's got some time to make that up, although he's only won premierships with the Storm. There's been some other really, really good coaches in NRL history, but I think Wayne Bennett, if he isn't already at the top of the heap, he will definitely be at the top of the heap if Souths can win the grand final. In terms of team changes for both sides, big boost for the Panthers. They get Moses Leota back. He's going to be in the starting side. And Tavita Pangai Jr., unfortunately, is injured and won't be playing in the grand final. But I did hear somewhere that he could have played, but he chose to rule himself out so Panthers Jr. Spencer Leniu could play. Which, if that's the case, then that's a really stand-up thing to do, because TPJ hasn't played in a grand final. Oh, actually, was he in the 2015 grand final? Oh, 2015 Broncos grand final team. I got it. This is... No, he was not there. He was not there. So, really stand-up move there, because it's hard to make a grand final. As we've seen as fans, it's not something that comes around for you every year, unless you're a Melbourne Storm or a Sydney Roosters, one of these clubs where you're almost guaranteed to be in a grand final every 3 or 4 years at worst. Really, let's be honest. But they don't come around every day. And he said, "Look, you go and play. You're a Panthers junior. I'll sit out." I think that's a really stand-up move for TPJ, and shows a lot of good about his character. I know he's had his off-field indiscretions, and he's had his on-field issues, but that's a really stand-up move from him. So only changes there for the Panthers. For the Rabbitohs, they're 1-17 as per the side that beat Manly in the prelim. In the betting stakes, Bunnies not favourite in this game. Panthers, I think deservedly so. It's 2 versus 3. 167 for them. 225 for the Bunnies, which I think are really, really good odds there. I would have liked to see in the odds a little bit closer. It would have been good to have a little bit more value for the punters that are backing Penrith. I think 187 to 225 would have been good, or 187 to $2 thereabouts would have been fair. Anytime try scorers, Brian To'o, $1.80. I think he's all but a certainty to score for the Panthers. $2.15 for Alex Johnston, another certainty for the other team. And then Cody Walker at $3.75. Cody Walker has been scoring tries and setting up tries at will. One of the greatest single attacking seasons I've seen of a player. Turbo's would have to be the greatest, given the amount of tries he scored and tries that he assisted. Obviously, Cody Walker being the chief playmaker for the Bunnies has set up more tries than Turbo has. It's a ridiculous amount. It's like 37 or something like that. It's crazy stats. And I guess we can we can give Peter V'landys a little bit of credit for these improved attacking numbers. I mean, I don't know the last time we saw a back three of any club, or any club have, 3 try scorers with 20 plus tries like we did with the Seagulls, and see the amount of set up tries we've seen from Cody Walker. I think the change in the rules has probably led to these improved attacking performances. I'd like to think that in the next couple of years that we're the teams that kind of haven't yet adjusted to the faster style of play, as they start to bring in particularly forwards who are better suited to the more up-tempo style of play. I think the field will even out a little bit, and it may be less open than it is currently. But, I think that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of points. And look, at the end of the day, fans like to see tries, so it's not a bad thing. Clive Churchill. That's one I like to get on a punt on every season, because I feel like from a betting perspective, it's really only between like 4 to 6 plays that are legitimately going to win it, right? Now, you can all but just rule out your interchange players, unless it's your interchange utility who plays, 30, 40 minutes. But aside that, you're looking at your chief playmakers and your biggest attacking exponents, typically, fullbacks, or it could be a forward. I think Cody Walker's form is so irresistible at the moment that if I had to put my money on only one player to win the Clive Churchill, and look, if I end up betting the way I usually do, I usually put a few in there, maybe 2 or 3, just kind of hedge my bets. But if I was going to put all my money on one player, it's Cody Walker at $7.50. I think those are fantastic odds. I think if Souths win, it'll be off the back of Cody Walker. In fact, I'll guarantee it. $7.50 if you like Cody Walker. And if you hadn't guessed already, I am backing the Bunnies. I'm backing them by 7 points. I think this is going to be a close one. And I actually think there aren't going to be many points in this one. I think it's going to be a very, very, very tight contest. And if you like the Bunnies 1 to 12, $3.30 for them, which I think are really, really good odds. And on that note, that's all I've got for you for season 2021 of this NRL Telstra Premiership. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and for putting up with my mumbling and my bumbling and my little foibles. And I'm sure there have been a few stats that I've gotten incorrect here and there. But look, it's been really fun, and I've really enjoyed putting this together for you. What this is going to look like next year, I'm not sure. Now, I believe I alluded to this a little bit earlier in the season, that I had some thoughts of, what this might look like, what this channel might look like moving forward after this season. I'm not quite sure. There is a possibility that I might bring a historical component to it. I may scrap doing these, round previews, because there are a lot of great YouTubers out there that are doing these weekly previews. I personally am very inspired by documentaries, so hey, there might be that kind of element in it. I'm not sure. But as soon as I know, you'll know. And look, I did want to say before I sign off, don't expect any content from me for the next couple of months or so, just while I get my head around things. And I've also got some other projects on the periphery that I'd like to get a move on, because this season's been chockers, and doing this on a weekly basis, it took me a while to get into a groove, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's not an immense amount of work, but it's a lot of work. But yeah, look, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you when I see you.